in which you appear today?
Michael Joseph O'Connor, National Secretary, CFMEU Manufacturing Division.
Travis Kent-Wacey, National Policy Officer, CFMEU Manufacturing Division.
Terrific. Would you like to make a brief opening statement, and we will then go to questions? Mr. O'Connor?
Yep, if I could, if I'd like to make a brief opening statement. Can I say that we have people in a number of states who work in the forests, who work in sawmills, who rely on wood fibre from our native forests, who are very concerned about their job security. We've had a number of people who haven't been able to work. We're concerned about the lack of urgency about addressing this issue. This has now been going on in some jurisdictions since about all of or half of last year. We are fully supportive of the amendment moved by Senator McKenzie. We believe if the bill that Senator McKenzie has drafted is passed, it will restore the original intention of the legislation, which was to provide certainty for the timber industry, forest industry, and provide certainty for people's employment and certainty for the communities that rely on the industry. People might ask why I know what was the intention of the original legislation. Well, what I'd like to say to the senators quite respectfully, I know what the original intention was because I was there during those debates, during those discussions with successful ministers involved in the forestry industry and the timber industry. I think that we welcome this bill. We hope it's supported, and I thank the Senate committee for giving us the opportunity to speak on our submission.
Thank you, Senator Ciccone. Would you like first step, or do you want Senator McKenzie?
I'll let Senator McKenzie or Senator Rice go first if they want. So.
Okay.
Senator McKenzie, you have the floor.
Mr. O'Connor, thank you so much for your support of the forestry industry and the private senators bill I've put forward. Appreciate the Forestry Division's support. I'm wondering if you could, given that you represent the industry workers from East Gippsland right through to the north coast of New South Wales and beyond, could you give us an understanding? I think there's been not enough focus on the human impact and the sustainable nature of Australia's forestry industry and the human impact of this uncertainty that this ambiguity following Mortimer has provided.
Well, Senator, what we have is a situation since last year where people who are expecting to go to work have not been able to work. So we've had an immediate loss of income for a whole range of families. So that, particularly the forest contractors, the harvesting and haulage contractors have been impacted immediately. And I think everybody should be aware that some of these people, of course, were also impacted by COVID and also impacted some of those communities by bushfires. So a situation where it's already very stressful for people in New South Wales and Victoria in particular, with bushfires, the impact of bushfires, opting the bushfires. Some of them fought bushfires for weeks on end, working ridiculous hours to protect the forests and their community. And then on top of that, as they sort of came off the line, the fires, we got control of the fire situation, and then they faced being stood down because of this uncertainty with the injunctions, etc. So it's caused a huge impact on them and their families. And for the small business people that we deal with and relationship with, was them trying to do the best they can to keep their employees working or trying to support them has been amazing to watch, and of course puts stress and strain on these family businesses as well. The other thing is that while the immediate impact's been felt by forest contractors and both in harvesting and haulage, a number of sawmillers have been concerned about what's happening with their sawlog supply, and again the impact on their business, their employees, and the situation where in Victoria a number of logging areas were taken out of the schedule has impacted on wood supply for sawmills. And can I also wish to inform this inquiry that last year, it's the union's view that if it hadn't been for the significant reduction of demand for photocopying paper because the number of offices that were closed down during COVID, we would have a situation that the pulp and paper mill in Maryvale would have run out of wood. Now, that's the biggest private employer in the Latrobe Valley. And, of course, not only does it directly employ around 1,000 people, but there are so many businesses and other people depending on that activity. So you had the fires, you had the emissions, you had the uncertainty, and it's causing stress across the whole supply chain, all those communities and all those families.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Like, when your members hear words like transition, which is what we've heard a lot today from people, that they're going to transition from being proud foresters to ecotourism operators, have you got some direct feedback from your members on their desire to be working in a different industry, particularly one that's been recognised today as, you know, globally recognised as sustainable and having to be regulated under some of the stiffest environmental standards globally?
Sorry, Senator, I was wondering if you could repeat that question. We just broke up then.
We are breaking up a bit. I guess I wanted to understand your view on two things. The sustainability of the industry broadly, particularly as it's governed by some of the toughest environmental regulations globally, and how your members feel about being part of such a sustainable industry versus being transitioned, as we've heard so often today, as the solution, transitioned into, you know, ecotourism and the like.
Well, I think that, you know, that our organisation, our members have supported sustainable forestry as a policy for decades and decades. And our members have a firm commitment to sustainable forestry for a whole range of reasons, including the fact that they want to make sure their jobs continue in the long run. And that means they've got to support sustainable forestry practices. They're absolutely committed to sustainable forestry. The second reason why they support the principles, members don't just work in the forest, to protect these forests.
As firefighters.
Sure. Mr. O'Connor, your audio is breaking up quite badly. I might actually just see if we can get you on a audio-only line through a landline and see if your colleague, Mr. Wacey, has anything he would like to add, or Senator McKenzie, do you have any specific questions for him? If not, I'll pass the call over while we're sorting out Mr. O'Connor.
I'm happy to. I guess one of my line of questioning was how has the federal court ruling into the Leadbeater possums versus Vic Forest impacted your members, but particularly, can you touch on the Bunnings decision to stop stocking Victorian hardwood timber following the decision?
Certainly. Well, it's caused disarray, the May decision, in the industry because of the uncertainty. And then ultimately we considered it, the decision by Bunnings to be a really knee-jerk reaction to that. You know, especially given, you know, as you would have heard today, that appeal, that decision was under appeal. There was some ambiguity around it. without passing judgment on the decision from Justice herself, it was something which I think was really poorly perceived by our members and the industry more generally, to suggest that that this decision was determined for some reason, or that forestry operations in Victoria were equivalent to some of the disgusting and horrid illegal log-in practices that you see in overseas and the developing economy. So for Bunnings to sort of use that decision, which in a way which wasn't, we think, suggesting that, but to sort of say, we're not going to stock Victorian hardwood timber because of this decision, because of our stance on illegal logging, we found it pretty disingenuous.
Yeah, given we've got legal logging under high environmental standards right here at home.
Indeed.
We've heard today about some appalling behaviour of some extreme activists in our coops. G'day, Mr O'Connor. And just, we found him. I guess one of the things I was thinking of during that evidence was how it must feel to be a machinery operator in a forest and having these sort of incidents occurring at any given time, and with what could be quite devastating results to the activist through no fault of your member, and etc. Have you sort of got any commentary to make about that?
Yes, Senator. Can I just make it very clear? We recently did meetings of the workers out in the bush a few months ago, and the one thing they wanted to communicate to everybody first off is they believe everybody has a right to protest.
Yes.
They agree with people they think that's a great privilege about living in this country, that people have the right to peacefully protest. But what they can't understand is how people could protest in such an irresponsible way that endangers their lives, endangers the protesters' lives, endangers the lives of the employees are saying their crews. They don't understand how people can protest in a manner that's completely irresponsible, and also in a way in which it's an attempt to actually make things to increase the chances of conflict. So, in the years gone by, Senator, we've attempted to try and have some protocols around about protests about the forest issues, to try and get some agreements. We've never been able to do so. And so, again, these confrontations are something that concern our members because of occupational health and safety reasons. They concern our members because they think they're deliberately orchestrated to try and lead to ugly confrontations. And, if there's one or two of you out in the forest and you're confronted by 20 protesters, I know it mightn't be the normal public image, but for the harvesting crew or the one or two people out there from our industry, it's intimidating. It's a deliberate attempt to intimidate them. And so it's causing a heap of mental stress and strain on everybody. And again, if people are under stress and strain, increases the chance of accident. So our members are quite distraught, particularly when people are using children. And there was some publicity recently about that. And can I say that is not the first time that someone has brought a young child into a working coop. And I don't understand how the people organising these protests allow that to happen. As someone who organises protests myself, I think you have a duty of care to people who are protesting and to the people in the public. And if you're responsible, you've got to try and carry out that as best you can. And, to involve children in a dangerous possible environment is beggars belief.
Thank you, Mr O'Connor. And just finally, in your submission, you say the bill's extremely necessary and warrants bipartisan support and swift passage by the Parliament. I mean, I'm interested in what advocacy you've done on both sides of that bipartisan. Obviously, the National Party are here, but what with the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, what conversations you've been had around that sort of issue, and are you concerned around this legal uncertainty spreading to other RFAs, particularly in Tasmania?
So we've written to the Prime Minister last year. We wrote to the Prime Minister. We didn't publicise the correspondence with the Prime Minister until months later, because we didn't want to look like it was just a political exercise. It was generally driven by the concern of the people who work in our industry. We're very disappointed that the government hasn't moved in this space. We have also spoken to a number of people in the opposition about this issue, and we don't understand why there isn't a sense of urgency that there should be. I think it's, in the scheme of things, from our perspective, it does involve a lot of people. Maybe some people in Canberra think unless it involves tens of thousands of people immediately, it's not important. We're very, very welcoming of the National Party vision, which obviously is concerned about these people in regional rural Australia that are, we think, being victimised by the lack of uncertainty currently in the law. But we know we've got some support on both sides of the House, but we wish that people wishing you took, Senator, and were more public about it, and actually saw this as an important thing that needs to be addressed immediately.
Thank you. Thank you.